Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy any investment based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
Hello and welcome to the Midweek Takeaway. We're joined by Colin Bird, Executive Chairman of African Pioneer. Welcome back, Colin.
Thank you, Phil.
So obviously today you announced the progression of African Pioneer's Central Africa Copperbelt project under an option agreement with First Quantum Minerals. First Quantum has opted to commence a 2-year earning period on 2 of the 4 licenses from AFP's subsidiary, marking a significant step in exploration and resource development. Can you take us through in layman's terms what this option agreement is and what it means for African Pioneer shareholders, as it seems the market may have missed something here, Colin?
Well, I think the market, wherever you look, that we seem to be missing things. I think that's more of a function of the market than of these particular projects. But the question is, what does it mean? Well, what it means is one of the world's biggest companies, I think, big companies, market cap of around about 28 billion, I think, decided that having a good look and see, because we did it as an option agreement initially, not joint venture, have decided they want to pitch their resources, people, money, equipment into the projects, which is obviously a good sign. So what's driven this is, of course, it's the discovery. They have no doubt in their minds, and they say it. The one thing about just news announcement, it's not Colin and Co. and African Pioneer geologists. We're just born optimists. This all RNS is supported, generated, and agreed, and comments are within it from First Quantum themselves. So they are very, very pleased with what they've got. How can you come up with a world-class transformational discovery when Zambia has been mining copper now for 140 years? And that, of course, is the answer, Phil, Kevin, is that they have been, there's mines which started in 1929, which is still going, and the SOB shaft, I think, has got another 50 years, Kitwe. So chasing new models was never, ever the goal. And it's only of these last few years that in the Solwezi region, and you see our friends First Quantum doing very well with Kansanshi. You see they bought Kalambila, which is now the 40th best copper mine in the world. You see Lumwana, which was I don't like to call a project a dog, but I can't think of a better word at the moment. All of a sudden, the Barrick are investing $2 billion on it, and then they made some very serious discoveries. So that northern region, I think Phil mentioned in a recent interview, that northwestern region has suddenly emerged. But that's all more or less standard copperbelt material. If you look at what we've got, as I say, the political boundaries were put up, but the geological continuity, if you like, of that I-class copper, cobalt, formation, structures, architecture, call it what you like, from DRC, spread down well into Zambia. And we've got it, that license. First Quantum readily suggest and not agree, suggest and postulate that the Western Foreland is there, the Kolwezi style mineralization there, Kamoa style mineralization is there now. Kamoa is the second richest mine in the world, copper mine. Started a couple of years ago and belongs to Ivanhoe Resources, Robert Friedland, the most successful entrepreneur in the business. And that, it really is going extremely well. So all that geology, all that architecture, all that structure, all extends down into our licenses. And as I say, it's not me saying it. It would have much less validity, I guess, if I said it. It wouldn't have much more validity if some of our geologists said it. But when First Quantum have done all the work in the geochemistry, the geophysics, the modelling, they've done some really fancy modelling as well as our friends at First Quantum. And it's their prime target in Zambia. And they've got 3 machines committed to it already. They spent the money they've spent, and they've told us they want to spend a lot more. This is basically an endorsement that we've got a transformational system on our hands there in Zambia. The president of Zambia is talking about 300,000 tons of copper. And so he's going to get it from Solwezi. You see Solwezi growing in stature. That town is growing like wildfire. And we're in the right place at the right time with the right group. And everything that this RNS says this today says that First Quantum endorse it, we endorse it, and what's more important than guesswork and suppose, the actual results support it, and First Quantum are committing a significant budget to the entire area.
So, Colin, what is the geological makeup of this type of system that comes from the Congo then?
Two systems really, and of course first quantum and chasing the easy one first. Why wouldn't the dripping roast, the dripping certainly roast? It's the Colwizi style mineralization, which is very close to surface. And the first program, pitting and trenching, found some very, very nice intercepts at quite nice values, extremely close to surface. That model, we got 35 to 40 kilometers of it, and that is being chased first. And that's called the Colwizi type mineralization. And there may be cobalt in that if it's similar. Now, the bigger machine, of course, is on a different mission. So that's one mission, the near surface, thick grades, 0.7 to 1%, but hopefully, quite a lot of it. I won't go into millions because I don't think I'm supposed to say those sort of things, but big bulk tonnages of quite a nice grade, similar or higher to the current Sentinel mine. Whereas the other target, which the big machines come for, will be deeper. And, it's actually the answer to a Maiden's Prayer if you're a miner, the Ivanhoe mine. It's actually flat, 3 meters thick, running at 6%. Can you imagine being a miner mining something flat, which is 3 meters? You can bolt the roof, and it's actually coal mining techniques, room and pillar. And it's really highly productive, low on people, very, very good in copper production when you talk about anywhere between 5.5% to 6.5% copper. So that environment is made up of quite a few unique structures, quite unique architecture. And what you're looking for, Kevin, is traps. It's all right having all of that arc structure, but you've still got to find the traps which generate the big resources. And they haven't got to be that big, by the way, in terms of tonnage. When you're working at 5% copper, where every 100 tons has got 5 tons of copper in it, you're not looking for millions and millions of tons per unit. So you're looking at the fluid traps. And of course, the most expensive way of looking for fluid traps would be buying and using the drilling machine. So First Quantum, in their wisdom, and doing what you would expect them to do, is lots and lots of modeling, very fancy modeling, which takes everything into consideration: geophysics, geochemistry, architecture, 3D modeling. I think they're using artificial intelligence nowadays as well for prediction purposes. All that will be done. And then, of course, the machine will be directed towards what all of their, shall we say, modeling takes them. And hopefully they'll hit. And if they hit, they will have hit something which is very, very significant, and hopefully should result in another Kamoa type situation. So let's forget 2 targets. We're drilling the first target. There's 35 to 40 kilometers of it. And then we will be drilling, I suspect, the serious drilling for the Kamoa will be next dry season. But the near surface stuff, no reason why it can't go on until the rains chase it out for a month or so. But we're very excited. But more importantly, it's unusual to have a joint venture to go so supportive of you in an RNS. And if you see that RNS is as much about First Quantum as it is us. And they're very keen that the world knows. They're very keen that we know. They demonstrated themselves to be good partners on more than one occasion. Remember, I've worked with them before, and we turned a project round in 2 years and sold it to them for $260 million. They know us and we know them. So we're all committed to a good result. And it is top of their league, and they're applying all of the resources that the big companies got in terms of manpower, in terms of machinery, hardware, software, and of course the vital thing, what unlocks these things, cash. So it's all very exciting. It's all very transformational. And I'm very proud that our team and their team have actually discovered this, because academia talked about it. It was rumored for years that, the structures, the architecture extended into Zambia, and the drill machine has proved it. And we're very happy about that. And it is transformational for African Pioneer, and we're very proud of this have achieved.
Yeah. What is the situation, if you were to compare this situation to the one you had previously with First Quantum, that you ended up selling that mine for $260 million. I mean, is this possibly as big as that, or
much bigger? No, it's much bigger. Much bigger. I mean, first of all, we're talking 35 to 40 kilometers of strike. And now, of course, it would be nonsense of me to suggest that all of that strike will be live. That's absolute nonsense. But it's a much bigger proposition for the near surface stuff. Now, the grades we've got, we had the average grades we got at First Quantum was about 5.59. The intersections we've got here are more of the 0.7s, 0.8s, over 1%. So this near surface stuff, hopefully there'll be a lot more of it. Hopefully it will be higher copper percent. And of course the cobalt is cobalt there, because in the Colweezy system, cobalt was part of the value play. And then of course there was no Kamoa, and Kamoa wasn't discovered even by Ivanhoe then when we sold that, I don't think. No, it wasn't. But to put it in perspective, 3 years ago, Ivanhoe turned down $1 billion for a minority stake from BHP in the Western Foreland. Our project is sitting on top of the Western Foreland. So in value terms, 260 million, was awful lot of money, and we're very pleased to have got it into Kiwara Resources. But now collectively between the two, on the one hand, the near surface material, and by the way, they might not even need a standalone mine, because they've got a lot of milling capacity down at Sentinel, 60 or 70 kilometers away. So in actual fact, do you need to build all the infrastructure of a Kansanshi all over again? Because that's a pretty smart place that First Quantum have built. No, of course you don't. If you find a Kamoa, you don't need to find hundreds of billions of tons when you're talking about between 4.5%, 5%, 6% copper. You only need to find 40 or 50 million tons to justify a mine. So it's set in the right region of Solweezy. It's collectively more of a district than an individual mine. There are two targets, and so the only difference is, of course, if I look at it, the question has to be directed, I think, Kevin, at this stage, which is potentially the bigger, and of course, this is much, much, much bigger. We drilled and we drilled and we drilled Kalambila. We didn't drill it that much, but we came up with 1.5 billion tons if you drew a big piece of paper around it at 0.59, and First Quantum were happy to sell it. And of course, there were others came on the scene who we were not allowed to talk to, because First Quantum would have put us in handcuffs. We could not talk to anybody else. And the deal went through quite fast. I think it took 3 months. Now, this one is at a very, very exciting stage. But if one looks at the potential, the fact that there's 2 targets instead of 1, if one looks at the fact that the Kamoa's target is unique, unique to Ivanhoe, and no longer, and probably in a few months' time will not be unique to Ivanhoe. It'll be unique to Ivanhoe and us. And then you've got the sort of Colweezy style mineralization, which is super Kalambila. So I have to answer, in my art of arts, I feel that this is potentially much bigger than Kalambila.
And from a joint venture point of view now, what is the sort of situation? What do First Quantum have to do to qualify for what?
Well, they now have to get stuff into the targets, and of course the other 2 targets which finish, they make the decision on next year, are under basalt and that, and a pretty difficult exploration. But all the modelling and everything we've done suggests that the ore body is underneath that basalt, and that's why you don't get the geochemistry. Of course, it's impervious to the geochemistry, but let's assume the worst of the best. It doesn't really matter. But First Quantum have to move now to form in a technical report, which they have to submit to us, which has an indicated a resource of not less than 300,000 tons of copper. That says they get the 51%, and then there's normal joint venture agreements where they have to do the work and move on, and we get to the stage where they elect to mine, and then it says we've got to contribute to our 25%, which we've still got left. We've tried to structure the agreement that is relatively fast track, but First Quantum and, well, in fact, what major? None of the majors have got an history of wanting 25% partners. So we all know what the story there is. If it comes up to expectations, they certainly won't want Little African Pioneer as a partner would. That's the way the industry works. Majors like to be on their own timetables. Majors like to be on their own expenditure tables. But you can't predict any of that. The drill machine has got to do its work, I'm afraid, over the next few months. But in terms of discovery, geological advancement, mineralization, address, proximity, we are very, very pleased with what we've got in terms of Kamoa, Western Foreland, and Colweezy style mineralization.
Very interesting times ahead then. In the next 12 to 15 months, we should have a lot of news and a lot of movement then in African Pioneer, you would imagine.
Good Lord, yeah. I mean, it's, gee whiz, talk about biting fingernails off, as I say, they've got to do all of their modelling and predict where the fluid traps are. I can imagine sitting waiting for that drill machine to go down 500 or 600 meters to see whether you're going to go through this 3 meters of 6% flat line material. That's nail-biting stuff, isn't it? But, they're so professional. I wish you'd had the opportunity of meeting the guys.
Well, maybe we will when we come to Zambia and fight.
Well, they live in Perth in Canada, they're senior. But that's the nice thing, that right at the top of First Quantum, they will talk to you. That's very unusual. They share what's happening on the ground. Last week, our geologist had 3 full days with them. And so instead of it being a secret society, it's going to be a true joint venture where we even have our say now and again, not as they need our voice, because their own voices are very experienced, very talented. But, another opinion is another opinion. And I've got nothing but good to say for First Quantum. The way, obviously the Colin deal has affected me, but I was there at the foundation of First Quantum and was very pleased we got it away. I was very pleased with the way the company got. Obviously, I was very pleased when they acquired our Colin. It was good to get them on as joint ventures partners, and so that's very good. And I was very sad, and on another note, very sad to hear that the founder, Phil Pascal, who I assisted to get this all away, I think in 1998, passed away last month, and that's very, very, very sad. But the company goes on. He set up a very, very nice company with a very professional style. His son now is the chief executive, and I'm proud of the fact that I was associated with them at the start. I'm proud of the fact that together we've made this whopping great transformational discovery, which was lying waiting to be discovered.
Good. Hopefully people will start to take a look at this opportunity to buy a £4 or £5 million market capitalization company that could have life-changing discovery here, and also has a great property in Namibia, just to throw.
Yeah, well, we tend to forget that, don't we? I mean, there's the best part of 500. We got to 29 million tons. Martin's working very hard at the moment, and so that's no small project either. It's just, I'm sorry, it tends to get dwarfed by what's going off in Zambia, but it's a real project. At the moment, we've got a mining license, of course, Kevin.
Yeah.
And the EIS is almost ready for award. So we're ready to start a mine there. So, I guess we got carried away with all this super duper exploration discovery, transformational discovery, but none of us should forget there's a mine ready for the off there.
Well, we look forward to you coming back on and updating the market, and obviously, hopefully the First Quantum, potentially announces a decision to mine, and everyone will be happy.
Well, that's right. And, I think we've said so many on so many of these interviews over the last couple of years. We're not going to put our heads in the water. We feel so sorry that there's a massive disconnect, especially for our initial shareholders and the pre-IPO guys, the African Pioneer. But we don't stand on our own. I don't see too many chief executives dancing from the rooftops on hay. But I tell you what, there is a way of the junior market changing, and when they do, they catch you by the surprise. They sort of limp into the doldrums. Boy, did they limp into the doldrums. They've been in the doldrums for 2.5 to 3 years. And every month you think it's bad, it gets worse the following month. My forecast is and stays that when we come out, we will all have to catch our breaths. It'll be the biggest ever revival of the resource industry. The small caps, the big caps will enjoy the same success in 24, 25. It's going to be an absolute great year for big caps, small caps, and small caps in particular. And we'll all be a call option for the copper price. And maybe I'm smoking my own dope. Maybe I'm a born optimist, but I'm heads down, making sure that anything I'm involved with is ready for when that big day comes.
Yeah, maybe, Colin, you're both.
But it's reality. We've got 2 wars on. We've got a massive headwind against us in terms of inflation and all of those things. So when you think about it, and I think that people thought that the copper price would probably have come forward quite a bit by now, and it hasn't.
Yeah.
But if you look at the copper price and then go back 10 years, then look at the trouble and strife which has been around us for the last 18 months. Copper has done extraordinarily well. So let's anyway. And my job is not to sit and bemoan 2 wars and inflation. My job is to try and make sure that we've got a bunch of assets which our shareholders have paid for, which gives them an healthy return and more from their faith and early risk.
Yeah, We'll say thanks very much, Colin Bird, Executive Chairman of African Pioneer. Thanks very much for your time.
And thank you very much for your time and listening to me.
Thanks, Colin.
This podcast was brought to you by Roast PR Limited. If you would like to appear on a future episode of The Sunday Roast, please email admin@thesundayroast.net.